Last year, I interviewed Magewell at NAB about the Director Mini, an all-in-one hardware switcher that would change the game for backpack streamers everywhere. Its size was small, maybe even possibly a little too small, but it had a lot of ability. So Magewell changed all that and came out with the new Director 1, with a larger screen and a lot more cool features. Best yet, the bigger, brighter, all-in-one hardware switcher can enter into your workflow in many different ways. What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine. Think Magazine, put in a geek. Before we get started, I do have to mention that Magewell did send me this unit for review, but they have no editorial say in the video, and all opinions are of Geekazine, which you can see over at my review page over at geekazine.com/review. If you would like your product to be reviewed, contact me at the link below. So Director Mini's bigger brother has entered into the game, and I'm seeing some awesome batting averages on this unit. There's more than just the large 7-inch AMOLED screen that will make you look at this hardware solution for portable production. First, when turning it on, you'll see a brighter touchscreen of 800 nits with a contrast ratio of 100,000 to 1. This makes it way easier to see the screen and tap on the right camera instead of accidentally switching to the shot where your cat just jumped up on the table. Unlike its little sibling, the Director 1 comes with 4 external antennas, 2 of them Wi-Fi and 2 for 4G. And of course, it has that built-in SIM slot so you can be as mobile as possible. But fear not, there's also not only that 1 gigabit Ethernet jack and the ability to USB tether, but you can also do some network bonding for a more solid connection around the diamond. And of course, HDMI gets the upgrade. It's an additional HDMI out port added so you can set up, program out, multi-view, and more. They also have the USB-C out for that as well. You can connect a portable monitor or even a touchscreen monitor for a larger screen to work on. And just like with the Director Mini, you can set this up so you don't have to touch the screen. With the web interface, someone can control the graphics, someone can adjust the scores, another can focus on audio, and you can even switch scenes from a tablet, laptop, or phone, just like this. But let's run back to first base before we're tagged out, and I'm going to show you the unbox. Then we're going to go through some scenarios that you can use the Director 1, and I'll show you the interface. Finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons, and I'll give you my final thoughts. The Director 1 was fairly straightforward to unbox. The unit, the plugs, and the wireless antenna I just talked about. Also in the box is a hood, so you can see things better outdoors. Other great features added to the Director 1 is locking plugs for the USB-C and HDMI out ports. You can then get these cables with thumb screws to secure onto the unit. Magewell added another 1/4 inch at the top by the antennas and a third 1/4 inch on the side. This is because you can set up the Director 1 for HD video or for vertical video. Next up, let's talk about our power. The Director 1 has 2 battery bays in the back, which take a standard NPF battery. My setups usually will be a 2 to 3 camera system, so dual 10,000 milliamp batteries in the back, these ones I got from Newer, will stay active for a good 2 to 3 hours. And when one battery dies, you can basically hot swap it out for continued usage. Of course, battery life will depend on what you have running on the device. One of the batteries I actually plugged in one of my cameras, so it died a little bit quicker. If you need to plug in the unit, it does come with a 12-volt 3.5 amp locking power plug and adapters for international power options. Now it's time to get to second base and show you everything you can connect to this unit. There are 2 HDMI capture ports and 2 USB-A ports for UVC cameras. I could even get an HDMI to UVC adapter for consistency. Wirelessly, you can connect up to 3 devices. NDI in its regular, its HX2 or HX3 format, SRT, RTMP, or RTSP. The best part is you can use these 3 wireless devices in multiple scenes. Want to pull in a remote guest via SRT or RTMP? Done. You can even use the remote feed from the Director utility, which we'll go over later. Need a 0 latency NDI feed from across the network? No problem. Director One takes all of these sources and makes them play ball together. So you can focus on the show instead of troubleshooting connections. Of course, let's not forget the audio. With a full mix page, you can set up which microphones are affecting the overall sound. Now let's talk about what this thing can do, because the answer is it goes for the fences every single time. First of all, let's go over the switching scenes. Each scene, you can add a camera or two. You can add graphics, you can add sounds, and more. You can resize and create super sources throughout all of your scenes. The device even has chroma key features, so a green screen can be keyed out and you could go from Arizona training fields to Fenway Park and back. Add cameras, web pages, and even frames and transitions so you can flip between the scenes in whatever style you choose. And if you have a PTZ camera connected, you can call up the controls of the PTZ joystick so you'll be able to follow the runner. Now let's talk about recording and streaming, because the Director One has a nice little feature called ISO recording. The device does input-output 720p and 1080p in PAL and NTSC formats, 30 frames, 60 frames, 29, 59, but it won't go past 1080p 60 frames a second. You can input a 4K camera, but it will only get you 1080p on the Director One. However, the Director One has the ability to ISO record two sources simultaneous. This is an added bonus for me, as I usually record unboxings. It allows me to record the B-roll channel that can be put in post to cover any balks that I made. And I don't balk. As I mentioned before, graphics can be baked into a scene, or they can be added on the fly. Pre-made graphics templates are available, but you can import your own. Simply just go in here, hit the GFX button, and then add them from there. I added this little main title right here, so that's what shows up, and then of course we can turn it right off. And another great feature is the Telestrator feature. Hit the little pen right there, and you can actually draw on the screen. So you can telestrate the last play. All right, so how can the Director One be used? This year at CES, I took the Mini and two cameras with me. I could then create a 3-scene shoot, one with the OBSBot Tail Air, which is a nice little PTZ camera that I could remote control, and then a static camera where all the interviews happened. This made it easy to post-produce video, simple pop flies to YouTube and Geekazine, shorts, and long-form content. Now, imagine setting up for a one-on-one interview using 3 cameras and this box right here. To begin with, most of it will fit easily into a bag. Don't even need to bring a laptop. Another use of the Director One is something that I've been working on for a couple of years now. I head out to events. Being a musician, I love to not only play in bands, but also record bands. So I've been setting up 1 to 2 cameras and recording or live streaming the band or presenter. Not only is everything in one area, it's also on a single battery. So I don't need resources from the venue for power or anything like that. I simply set up, record, or stream, tear down, and leave. A backpack streamer is a person who will set up anywhere to get footage of something with cameras, with boxes like this, anything that's portable. Whether in a concrete jungle, the actual jungle, or even the jungle known as the baseball, the football, the soccer, the tennis, the basketball, or other court, field, or whatever. This little box with a couple cameras will get you set up, recording, torn down, and out the door as quick as possible. All right, this is one of my favorite reasons for the Director One and using the Director One, and that is through the interface. You do not need to touch this thing at all. All you have to do is call up a web page. It's actually very straightforward. You go into your settings and you go into your network. You find out your IP address. You bring it in here. And then, of course, you've got full control of this device, as long as you know, of course, the username and password. And you can set up multiple users. So one person could be switching a show, another person could be importing graphics, web pages, whatnot, and go back and forth. So let's go through these pages really quick. First of all, when you log in, you get right to the dashboard here, telling you the Director One. It's telling you the battery status. And I do have to admit, I've actually had to redo this video 3 times. So I've spent a couple hours on this device. And this device, by the way, is set up in a wireless mode through the Wi-Fi antennas, through the dual batteries. And the battery level on this thing is just crazy at 75% for both batteries. And so I can get a few hours out of this thing with just this setup right here. And that's what's really cool. It tells me firmware, software information. My CPU is at 30 to 40%, memory at 53%, temperatures at a good 43 Celsius. That is, if I'm doing the math correct, about 110 Fahrenheit, but it's still cool to the touch. And that's really great. Fan speed is working at 3,800 RPMs. And of course, we got free space here. It's telling me what networks I'm on, which is the Wi-Fi network, but I can connect it up to the Ethernet. I can use the hotspot, and it'll tell me if that's all working from there. Let's move over to the input. This is telling me what I have connected. 3 NDI inputs, which is what I have. No HDMI, no webcam. But of course, if I plugged them in, they would show HDMI, webcam. Down here is actually pretty cool. This can tell you what color card you want if the source is not recognized. So I could set this up for this type of color card or this type of color card, but I can also set this up for different color cards for different connections. So if you see HDMI 1 is black, HDMI 2 will go to this color card over here. Webcam 1 will go to this color card over here. I'm going to switch it back, of course, because I want to have no color cards on there. But you can go right down the line and say, if RTMP isn't working, choose this color card. Let's move on from here. We've got, go to the produce area. This is where the magic really is happening. I don't have to touch this thing right here at all, which is great. So I can do all my control, including PTZ control. I just click on that. Look at that. I got PTZ controls right there. But I can switch from this camera to this camera to this camera to this camera to this camera. I can even add in shots. Maybe I want to put in this picture right here. So now I've just added that into there, and I can remove it as well. I have to get off the scene first. Let's get off the scene. But then I can hit the delete button and it's gone. And what's really cool is we'll go over here. So you'll see all the switches. There's that one. Go over there. And I want to show you this really quick because this is going to show you a little bit about the latency. Watch as I go from this scene over to the next one. In 3, 2, 1, click. There is a little bit of latency on there. You kind of saw that. Probably about somewhere around 50 to 100 milliseconds. I'm not sure. Some of these other systems, you'll see higher end latency, like 250 to 300 to 500 milliseconds. Of course, that really depends on the network that you're set up. I'm in my studio, so I've got Wi-Fi bouncing all over this place. So it does a great job. But when I'm out in the wild and I have this thing a little bit farther away from the computer, that might show a little bit more latency. We'll test that out in the field. But anyway, I can switch between all of these scenes right here. And like I said, I can add in the picture. Let's add in that picture. And then we'll go back over here. And then we'll just basically click there. And there's the image right there that we just put in. Bring it back here. And then, of course, we can delete that out, so you don't see that from here at all. Other things that we can do on this page, we can switch our settings. So if we don't want to cut, if we want to do a fade, we can do that. So now if we go from here to here, we'll see that. You can check it out on here. There's the fade from there to there and back. So we're fading everything. I don't think you can say this one is cut, this one's fade, but we can definitely switch it back. So I'm going to switch it back to cut. And I can also do different durations. Of course, with cut, you don't get any duration. But now that I've got it cut, it's cutting just fine. Going back and forth. There we go. That was through the switch settings right there. We also can fade to black. And in that switch settings down on the bottom, you saw the duration. So we could actually make that a faster fade to black. And and a slower fade to black as well. So we could go to freeze. And of course that freezes the screen. As you can see right here, it said scene frozen, and I can unfreeze it from here, but I can also unfreeze it from the button here, and we're back up and running. We have our create a show and show list. I'll show you show list first. This is all the shows I created, from horizontal shows to vertical shows, back and forth. I did some stuff at the piano, and I'm going to show you in the video. You'll see that somewhere. But I did a video where I used the Magewell Director 1 to record a video that I did a little while back. And of course, I have all these shows. I can add them, I can delete them, I can create them through the Create a Show. And I can create multiple shows up to 1080p 60 frames per second. Let's move over to encode. Encode is going to tell you how you want your two streams to work. If you're recording a primary and a secondary channel, if you want the primary to be 1080p 60 frames a second, 6 megabits per second, but let's say we're just going to do the second encode as 720 60, and we can create different ones as long as you don't go past 1080p 60 frames a second. And keep in mind, if you're recording onto a card, make sure you have a high-speed card inside of the unit so it works from there. You can also record to a hard drive through USB. So you have to think about the pass-through on the USB drive. Let's go over to stream. This is where we can set up all our streams to YouTube, to Twitch, to Facebook, to TikTok. We got an NDI, which means that you could actually send this off into another device. Like, for instance, I'm using vMix to record this video. I could send this off to vMix or Wirecast or OBS or whatever. I could also send it off as a confidence monitor for people. A couple different instances where NDI is set up so people can watch and other people can use it for switching. We've got RTMP, once again, you can also do that internally if you want to, and SRT. So that's the best part, is you can send this inside your studio, or you could send it across the country if you need to. Moving over to album, we'll do a few recordings. I hit that record button. That's what is right there. Otherwise, I did some previous recordings. I can go and I can download these and I can delete these from here. So that means I could create a segment. I could have somebody at the helm, and when that segment's over, they could instantly download it from the Magewell and then delete the information from the card so we can do the next segment and have more than enough space to do that. They can also start and stop the records from here, and they can take pictures. Simple as that. All you have to do is hit this button and poof, there's a picture. In fact, I'm going to show you it from here, this aspect, because it's kind of funny. 3, 2, 1, poof. There we go. See how it flies off? So it tells me that there's been a picture that's been taken. I can go to replay. I don't have anything in replay right now. I can go to screenshot, and these are all the screenshots that I just took. So they can easily be added. They can be downloaded. They can be deleted. Bringing it into here, you actually have to go back over to album and then go to the screenshot, and then you're going to have to download it somewhere, and then come over to produce and then hit the add button and add a picture and then choose the upload. There is no way to get the screenshot from the media, at least not right now. We got BGM. This is background music. So this is, you can add music that'll be playing during your background, hit the play button. And then now I've got music playing in the background on my Magewell. Well, the best part about this is I can put multiple songs in here, and then it just goes from song to song to song to song to song. Let's move from here. Let's go over to media. This is where we can import everything. Like I imported a image from here. You just basically hit the upload button and then go to the folder, upload the file. You can choose video. We can do the same thing. Let's go ahead and upload something. You can upload HD, you can upload vertical videos just like that. Yeah, it looks a little stretched right there, but it is uploading, and it is uploading as a vertical video right there. And then once again, if you go back over to produce, you can add it. You can say video clip. There it is right there. In the music area, you can upload all of your music for whatever background you need. Finally, let's go over to system here. This is where we can do all the admin stuff. We can add users. So let's say you have one person that's doing the production, one person that's doing the music, one person that's doing something else. All you have to do is add the user, give them a username, password, and then when they're done with whatever they're using, you can just completely delete that profile so you don't have them access your show at the wrong time. We go into general. This is going to tell us all the device and time information. We'll go over to network. That's going to tell us what we have for our network protocols going on. Go over to Control Hub. I don't have that set up right now, but you can set that up as well. You basically hit the register button and give all the information that you need there. Security, if you've got certificates, you can import them from file or bring them in manually from a copy paste. Firmware update, you can either check the firmware, bring it in if you've got an air-gapped network, or it will check automatically. And it says my firmware is up to date, which I knew that. And then finally, let's go over to logs. Logs are going to tell you everything that you need to know, and they're in real time. So if I want just information logs, I just go over here. If I want errors, I go over here. And it's telling me that there was an error at the pull phone camera. So I'm just going to do this really quick. I'm going to hit record on the unit here right now. Boom. And it says encoder is created. Gives me the information right there. I'm going to stop this recording. It's going to also tell me information and says encoder is destroyed. I don't know. It's kind of fun. Destroyed. So that is all the log. And then finally, if you need any support or anything like that, it's all down on the bottom. You will need an internet connection to get to these, the support, the user guide, the license, the legal, and the warranty. And then of course, up on top, if you go here, that's going to take you to Magewell's page. And like I said, you can actually do this from the phone as well. And that's through the Director utility. That's what this is right here. We can do two things. We can choose remote assistant or we can choose phone camera. We're going to start with remote assistant. And then of course we connect up to the unit there. And that brings us to this page. So basically, just like with the desktop, we can do the switching. So I can go from here to here to here to here to here, back to here, back to here. So easy peasy, bring in the graphics if I want to. So I got the graphic down there, bring that out. I can turn on and off the stream, and I can give control of this to whoever. So if I don't want somebody messing with the stream, I don't give them the access. Next one is there's the album, all the screenshots, all the replays, all the records. I can start the record and of course, once again, take a photo. And then unlike the desktop, I can actually control the audio from here. I was talking about the background. I can bring that background music up and down. So if I don't want to touch this thing and work from here, have the phone up and ready to go. A little hamburger menu on the side that gives you even more options. So you can go through all of them to see what you can do, including creating shortcuts. So I can add a shortcut and I can name it and I can give it some functionality like bring up the GFX like so, give it a name. So give it the lower third and we'll hit add. So we'll go test and then we'll find a key for a shortcut on an external keyboard, maybe if we have a Stream Deck setup or whatnot, or key text. So we can add that there. And of course that won't work here. We'll need to have something with a keyboard to actually initiate the shortcut. The other part is doing the phone camera. So you can turn that on. We haven't created one, so we'll have to go over here. We'll create the phone camera like so. We'll give it camera 1. We'll say hi and image quality and we'll hit create. Simple as that. Go phone camera again. And there's phone camera 1. We'll hit connect and we'll allow and allow. And now we can go either horizontal or vertical with this phone. We can also change the camera to the front face, back face. We can completely control which camera is being used in this situation. We can turn on and off the audio. We have some options here like tally light and audio level and image quality. And then of course in the settings, we can change a lot of the different types of settings for the camera. Over here, we've got a zoom option. We can turn on and off the flashlight. And then when we're done, we can just hit X and disconnect. You can do that on your desktop. You can do that on your tablet. You can do that on your phone. And of course, you can have multiple people using this. So I could create something where I have 4 or 5 people doing the show, I could give them tablets to do the show. They could use their own devices if you want to do the show. But ultimately, I have complete control over who sees these screens right here. I'm up in the music studio and I was doing a review of some piano software, keyboard software. And so I decided to use the Director 1 as basically the switcher between the camera shots. What I have are 2 tail airs up, in one that's pointing right directly at me and then one that's pointing right down to the keyboard. You can kind of see that in the shot there. The third instance is an NDI instance from the Mac Mini to the device. Since the Wi-Fi router is in another room, I decided to hotspot it from here to here. So this is set up for the SSID from the Director Mini, so I could have a better connection between this and this. These 2 cameras are hardwired in via HDMI, so they have a constant signal, and I don't need to use the phone or any other device to control it. They're pretty much set from there. So, and when I'm ready to switch it over, all I have to do is hit the button and switch it from camera mode to camera mode to camera mode. So basically I have a 3-shot setup, and we record that. We can also stream that if we wanted to, but that is how we have it set up here. As you can see, the footprint for this is pretty nice, and I can have it right in front of me so I can switch between the different scenes. Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine, and welcome to Geekazine in the Park. So I created a show, quick show, put a couple graphics. We got a little clock graphic right there, and of course the title, Geekazine in the Park. I'm using 4 cameras in this situation, all from OBSBot. I'm going to show you those cameras in a second. Actually 5 cameras, because I do have the phone camera also connected up. I'm using my iPad to switch between the cameras. So you'll see there's the phone camera, and now you're seeing that from here, and there's the iPad and all the switching that I have here. So here's the cameras that I have. This is the front face camera. This is the Meet 2, which is right there. That's a super small camera. Look at that. And it's USB connected. And I got a little concerned because I thought that, as a truck's passing by, I thought I brought a USB-C to USB-C cable instead of a USB-C to USB-A cable. So I decided to plug it into the USB-C out to see what would happen. And miraculously enough, it does work, which is great. Now, this is a USB-C camera, so you might have some sort of crush, a black crush in here. It's not gonna be perfect, but this is great for an overall shot, something like this. Yeah, the lighting is not great because the lighting is provided by the sun right here. So, all right, so we have that first camera. We've got our second camera. This is on HDMI 1. This is just basically an overview of the table right now, and that's an OBSBot tail air that is connected up via HDMI into the device, which is right there. Here, let me show you. So that's that camera right there, and that's plugged into HDMI 1. That's the blue one on the bottom. Since we're on here, we've got camera 2, which is right here. This is a closer look at everything, and that's plugged in right there on HDMI 2. Finally, we've got our tail air. The tail air is the other one that's actually completely remote wireless. So we've got that as the over-the-shoulder camera in our complete scene. So with that, let me just show you all the cameras we have here. First of all, HDMI 1, which is right there. HDMI 2, which is pointed at the screen. We've got our Meet 2, which is front face. And if you do use the Meet 2, you have to pre-program it. So connect it up to a computer and then tell it to not use the AI functionality. Otherwise, it's going to start to zoom in, zoom out, go left, go right, and everything like that. So it's a 4K camera that does AI. It shrinks it down to 1080 so it can AI in the scene that I have here. So anyway, that one, and then finally, this is the camera. And I don't think I showed you. Oh, I don't have the, oh, that's interesting. I don't have the last camera set up. All right, there we go. Now we have the fourth camera. So we have the fourth camera, which is right here, NDI.
which is using the Wi-Fi antenna. So it might be a good idea to kind of move an antenna that way so you can see what's going on. So, but the best part about this is I also have the remote here for OBSBot, so I can take this and I can take this camera and I can show you what I'm seeing behind me, which is just a really nice scene. There's a couple people frolicking in the air, and then of course over here we can hopefully those geese are still there. There they are. And what the cool thing about the geese is I could actually do some AI. So if they started moving around, then this camera would follow with it. As you can see, it's got a little bounce because of the wind. It's one of my monopods, which I use. It works really well because I can just kind of sit there. I can set it up and forget it. Like I said, I'm using the iPad. Let's see if I can show this to you a little bit better. There we go. And I got to watch out when I'm using the phone camera. One thing that it doesn't do, at least I haven't found out yet, is it doesn't lock its orientation. So if I turn it the wrong way, it's gonna go into vertical mode, and then it's gonna come back into horizontal mode eventually. But let's switch back here. So this is the setup I have. Let's talk a little bit more about what is in this setup right here, because I do have a few extra things. The first thing I have is the Saramonic. I'm using the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro X, which is just a simple 2.4 gigahertz wireless, a cable, and line out to here, and then choose microphone, depending on microphone or line in, depending on what it can do. We've got our 4 shots. And like I said, I was very impressed. You can see there's the USB-C cable. I'm kind of using the picnic table and the inserts here from each piece of wood to help with the camera setup. Otherwise, it should have went in here if I would have had a USB-A cable in here. Like I said, we've got the graphics up here. Let's go ahead and take that off. We've got the Telestrator, so I can draw in here and say, so there's the Director 1 right there. And of course, I can switch over here and I can say, hi, smile, smile, smile. You're on remote camera, I guess you would call it. So, but I would be able to do all the switching from here. And then once again, I don't need to use this. I'm using the Director 1. I'm using my phone as one of the cameras, but I could easily disconnect it. Switch over to Remote Assistant, connect up, and now I can use this for some of the switching if I wanted to, rather than the iPad. The iPad's got the graphics, so I'm gonna bring that clock back in here, and I'm gonna switch cameras with this right here. Bring out the clock through the iPad, and we're good to go. We're back here on the tail air. So basically, this is the setup. It's actually, this is probably the more complex of the setups right here, but everything fits into one bag. And I can have this set up within 15, 20 minutes and running. And of course, you got to set up the scene. So I basically just set up a new scene, of course, in HD mode, and set up all the little cameras. And then of course, with the PTZ cameras, I wanted to set up positions. So I could just push a button. Like I said, I'm doing this. And of course, we want to see those geese again. I'm just going to press that, and it's going to go ahead and switch it over to those guys. There they are. They're just kind of sitting there. I don't know what's going on. Don't even know they're being filmed. And then if I want to bring it right back, just press it here. So that's just a feature of the OBSBot camera. But being able to do this within the park, you could actually be doing some sort of, I don't know, you could be doing your own unboxings and reviews through this system right here in the park, in your backyard, whatever you need to do. As a backpack streamer, if you go hiking and you go up a mountain and you got a good spot to sit down and do some vlogging or something like that, you could easily do that.
There were a couple other events that I did participate, and I did bring the Director 1 into. This is one of them. Basically, I brought in 2 cameras, PTZ optics camera, and then of course the OBSBot Tail 2. And I brought those in via HDMI, and a tail air was introduced as a NDI remote. For the most part, I was able to switch back and forth between the cameras and then bring that into the Blackmagic television studio, where it became channel 6. this for an overall view with all the other cameras. So I was able to switch 2 cameras on the Director One and also send that out in Facebook in this situation. But then I was also able to put it into the Blackmagic configuration and then send it out that way. So 2 extra added cameras. If you have somebody that's actually monitoring those cameras, they can switch back and forth easily. And then you can have a lot more in your arsenal when it comes to doing higher end production. But let's get to the pros and the cons of the Director One. First of all, we're going to go through the cons. The unit's antennas are great, but when not attached, the canisters are just a little exposed. You can put the hood on to shield any damage, but you're definitely going to want to be very careful not to bend the cans. I might even look for some foam to put on top of them just in case. The unit only streams in 4G, not LTE or 5G. Tethering will resolve that, and bonding might be your best solution. While there are more 1/4 inch mounting options on the One, it still may be tough to put a cage around this and not block something. As you saw with the outdoor video, I used a picnic table's open spots to allow the USB-C cable to connect in and then keep this on the ground. So I'm definitely also going to want to get a small little tripod that I can put this on if I'm not putting it onto a stand. I did have some issues with bringing in more than one sound source, mainly the desktop audio from the computer. It created some sort of hum that I was never able to resolve. And full disclosure on this one, I haven't had a chance to try the 4G or bonding options. I also didn't use the SRT or RTMP yet. That's for another video down the road. The most interesting thing was when I recorded this and I brought it over to edit, it records in PAL, and I had to convert to NTSC and then bring it in to finish the editing. I've seen that with some of these boxes, and hoping there's going to be some sort of resolution, because I did set these up for 1080p 60 frames a second, not 50. So not sure what's going on there. But that's it for the cons. The pros are so much more. The unit is amazing for getting on-the-go content. There are hundreds of ways to bring this in and utilize the Director One. I love the fact that the hotspot works separate from the Wi-Fi. That made me able to connect to the network and have 1 or 2 devices connected via hotspot. The batteries I used gave me more than 6 hours of use. Those numbers can change, of course, as you bring in more cameras and you're doing more with the device, but even 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours is not too bad and will cover most events. Speaking of which, attaching cameras and setting up scenes, very straightforward. And with combining wireless protocol, you can bring up to 7 sources into the Director One, then make super sources from there. Now, the box, I didn't think got warm at all. When I recorded outside, it was 80 degrees, but it wasn't a hot 80 degrees. I couldn't hear the fans give out their very low sound, but no more than a laptop would. Cool to the touch. Speaking of touching, I love the fact I don't have to touch the Director One to run the show. The app gives me the freedom to switch, but I can also plug in a touchscreen monitor and a Stream Deck, a control panel, and more. I also love that I can assign others to switch cameras, bring in graphics, adjust sound, and more through a computer, through a mobile device. The bottom line, if you liked the Director Mini but wished it was easier to see, easier to use, a little bit bigger, and had better connectivity, the Director One is the new home run king. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to talk shop, you can do that over at Geekazine.com, youtube.com/Geekazine, where you can like, comment, subscribe, and of course hit that bell so you know when the next video comes out. Until next time, you guys geek out and play ball with the Director One from Magewell. Oh, and by the way, I did find a case that I could use for the Director One. It houses both the batteries and the unit and the antenna, of course. I actually bought this for my M4 Mac Mini, but it fits well with this. So I'm going to be moving this for there and, of course, getting another one for my Mac Mini.